Hey, so I'm doing a spark plug change. I'm actually doing the 4-year major maintenance on the 2022 992 GT3. Just wanted to share some insights with you on the spark plug change. It's very simple. The hardest part is just getting off the wheel, which isn't too bad at all if you've done that before for a center lock. The first thing you need to do is get the 4 T30 bolts out from the heat shield. I've already done this already. That's what the heat shield looks like. There's 4 of them. You can see where the 4 holes are. Once you get that off, then you have to disconnect the electrical connectors. And the way you do that is you pull that little tab out. You can see it there. It goes in, it goes out. And then once you pull it out, then you just use this little lever here and you pull it off. It comes off really easily. And then you also have the T30 bolts for the ignition coils. You pull that off, and then you just pull the ignition coil out. So here's my ignition coils. There's the other heat shield, center lock, etc. All that's very simple. And then the access to it is pretty straightforward. These first 2 cylinders, it's just a straight on with a extension. And that last one, I did need a wobble and another extension. So I just used that to get in there. No problem getting both, all 3 of them out. And the other side is identical to that. And the only thing that I used really, that's, I use that for my T30 to get off the heat shield, as well as the ignition coil connector. And then for the one on the far side, I had to use something like that. It's also a T30, just because I didn't have the access, just to get back in there. Just made it a little bit easier for me. Very straightforward, no problem at all. The other side is identical. Working on the other side right now, just pulled the first one out. This is after about 6,000 miles, 2 years. This is the second time I've done the spark plugs on this car. I think they look like I would expect, frankly. And then I always use the original equipment manufacturer spark plugs. I think you can get them cheaper from Bosch or something directly, but I just got these from Suncoast Parts. And then you have to replace these things every 2 years or every 12,000 miles. It seems like it's a lot, but as easy as these were to remove, I'm just going to keep doing this. The parts were like $270 for the 6 spark plugs. But anyway, I'm going to get the other 2 out and then put them back together and torque it. Yeah, so I just wanted to show you a little bit better with getting the last one out here. This is the one on the far right, and I used this is a 14 millimeter spark plug socket, as well as 4-inch extension, and then I have looks like a 12-inch extension there. And it doesn't take much force to get these out, but I slide it back in there, make sure I have a good fit. I can feel it grab, and then, whoops, move that. It's a little hard filming this by myself. I just have a little stand here, so I just knock the stand a little bit, and then I can just hand tight it out and pull it out. Comes out really easily. Anyway, I'll show you how to torque them later, and maybe a little bit of a close-up on the connectors. So reinstalling these plugs, that's the new plug right there. You just want to do it hand tight. You don't want to use a wrench or a torque wrench because you don't want to strip anything. Do it by feel until it gets totally hand tight, and then you can torque it with the torque wrench. Goes in there really easy. And then when you put the ignition coils back in, you want to use the ignition coil grease. I have that. That's what Porsche uses. That's tight there. And on to the next one. Super easy. All right, so to torque these, my torque wrench set to 23 Newton meters, about 17 foot-pounds. And then I also wanted to mention that you don't need to put any type of lubricant or anti-seize in these spark plugs. They come directly from Suncoast Parts, the OEM manufacturer, from Porsche, ready to install. So anyway, just get it in there and then until you hear that nice little click. There we go. You do that 3 times around, and then we'll connect up the connectors and the ignition coils, put those in after I do the next 5. Yeah, so the next thing is to install the ignition coils. That's what it looks like. There's a ignition coil grease that Porsche puts around it to make it easier to insert around the spark plug. This is the old stuff, it's yellow. I wipe that stuff off because you never know, it gets like maybe caked up and dried over time. You don't want to reuse it if you can help it. And get that off, and then you have the new stuff. You just need a little bit of dab on it. This is the product. You can get it off of Suncoast also. And just a little bit of dab, then you run around with your finger. You don't need much. Just enough to lubricate it so that it goes on. It's probably too much there. But, and then insert it right on in. Get a good fit. Line up that bolt with it, and there you go, it's in. So I'm gonna do that on all 6 of them, and then I'm gonna come around with the torque wrench and torque it. I'll get the torque spec and share that with you when I do that. A little bit more on these connectors. Hopefully my head doesn't get in the way, but all the connectors that I've worked with on this car, and I've done quite a few of them, between the oxygen sensors, the sports exhaust valves, which are solenoid valves in this model, and the rear lights are all identical. Hopefully you can see that. But there's that little yellow tab, and you pull it out, and then use this black thing as a little lever there, and it pulls right out. All the connectors that I've seen on this car are the same. And then it's just to reverse plug it in and push that tab back in to lock it. And then now I'm gonna torque the ignition coils in. So I had to switch to a different torque wrench to go down to the torque setting for the ignition coils. It's 9.5 Newton meters, or about 7 foot-pounds. So when you put the ignition coils in, you just want to make sure that it's lined up with the bolt hole so that you don't have to reposition it later. I didn't get that thing tight very well. There we go. All right. We do that on all 6, and then we'll put the heat shields back on. Super easy, guys. All right, so for the heat shield, it's just 4 T30 bolts. You just have to finagle that in around this is a upstream oxygen sensor, just forward of the catalytic converter, but just to squeeze it in there, finagle it around these 2 cables, and then and there it is. Then you just bolt it in with your 4 bolts, and that's it. I don't torque them. I make them hand fairly snug with a torque wrench, but overall this job is very, very simple. The hardest part is just getting off the wheel, which isn't hard if you've done it before, but well worth it. I enjoy doing it, and you save a cubic shit ton of money from a dealer or an independent shop. $270, something like that for spark plugs. It took me about 1 hour and 15 minutes total. Thanks, have a good day, guys.